Yeah, I can't hear any.
So, hello everyone, I'm Supriya Bhuvalka. I'm the founder of Coding and More.
तेरा वो muted तो नहीं.
If everybody can just mute. And so I'm the founder of Coding and More. We are a personalized AI edtech that teaches AI and coding to young children. And we're very happy to have Miss Ernitia here. Every month, we focus on an application of AI in different fields. This month, we are doing AI with climate change. And we are so excited that Ms. Ernitia agreed to come. She's a data scientist from Indonesia. She has done a lot of work on climate change, both to use AI to help mitigate the adverse effects of climate change, and two, how we can adapt to the climate change that has already happened. And also, I'm very excited to share that today we also have with us Miss Naya Bhatt, who's our student AI ambassador from Cathedral and John Connon. She's all of 15 years old. She's very passionate about climate change. She loves math and physics and computer science, but she's trying in her own ways to make an impact. So over to Ernitia and to Naya to facilitate this call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Supriya, for having me here. Thank you, Ms. Ernitia, for being here. Ms. Ernitia, could you tell us a little bit about what you do as a data scientist working in the climate change and renewable energy field?
Oh, okay. So I'm a data scientist. I actually work at a startup in Indonesia working to empower communities in rural areas with economic activities. But in my spare time, I also work as an ML engineer at Omdina, working on ML and AI projects related to renewable energy and climate change solutions.
That's very nice. Ms. Supriya, Miss, you're unmuted.
Sorry. Also, Ms. Ernitia, if you want, you can also share your presentation that you had presented, and we can take it. Also, we can't hear you really well. If you can change the setting a bit.
Yeah. Could you just speak a little bit louder, please? It was a little bit tough it was a little bit inaudible.
Is this better?
Much better.
Is this one better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Can you hear me? Can you see the screen?
Yes, you can see the screen.
Very good. Okay. So today, thank you everyone for joining. Talk about artificial intelligence for climate action. So who am I? My name is Ernitia Paramasari. As I mentioned, I'm a data scientist at Dagangan, startup in Indonesia, and I'm also an ML engineer at Omdina. I have certifications in data science, machine learning, and cloud computing from Microsoft, IBM, and AWS. I have also been trained as a climate reality leader. Yes, Supriya, you're raising your hand.
The audio went down again, Ernitia. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? What's wrong with this? Okay. Is this better? Okay? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, yes. So before we start, I want to ask you, what do you think? What is climate change? Can somebody just turn? You can just turn on your mic if you want. Just tell me what you think climate change is. I mean, I know you are. Supriya mentioned that you have. Yes, Fiona, please. You can unmute yourself.
So climate change is when we experience extreme weather. Climate change is when we experience extreme weather.
Extreme weather. Yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah, that's sad. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for your answers. So climate change, yes, climate change refers to long-term changes. Temperatures, yeah, which can also, of course, cause extreme weather, as you mentioned, and also other characteristic in the atmosphere. Climate has changed throughout the Earth's long history in the past, so it's not something new. But this time it is different, yeah? Because human activity is causing
higher and faster than any time we know in the past.
So this is something different, yeah? We need to we need to know that scientists, almost all scientists have agreed that this has been caused by human activities. And what is causing the climate to change? This is something that we call the greenhouse effect. I'm sure most of you have seen it before, yeah? So I'm just going to give a quick review. It's when our atmosphere has greenhouse gases, and we actually need it, yeah? If we don't have greenhouse gases, the Earth will be too cold. But so some sunlight that hits the Earth is reflected back into space, while the rest becomes heat. So as mentioned, greenhouse gases prevent heat from escaping into space. So which more greenhouse gases, the Earth will become even warmer, become hotter. Yeah. Unfortunately, that have been done lately, more greenhouse gases have been produced, much more than before. So the Earth is warming a lot faster. Yeah. Okay. So why? What are the causes of these climate change, global warming, some say, and greenhouse gas? What produces greenhouse gases? So there's so many things, yeah, like carbon emissions from factories, from transportation, including cars, planes, and bad practice of farming that is not very natural, yeah, and also deforestation, because forests, as you know, can absorb carbon emission, can absorb carbon dioxide. So if you cut them down, then it reduces their capacity, yeah, their capability. And then we have, so that's the cause, yeah. Those are the causes. And now we're talking about effects. What are the effects of climate? What are the effects of climate change? There are so many effects that you can see here, including droughts and floods. So the change in climate can create droughts in one part of the Earth, while it causes flood in another part of the world. And so there are also forest fire and the rising sea level, which eventually causes the coral reef bleach. As you can see on the left here, this is the coral. The coral reefs are not colorful anymore, they're just white, which is very bad. And there's also the melting ice in the North Pole, and we call them Arctic ice, yeah. Unfortunately, this is a habitat for some animals, including polar bears, so we need to conserve them, yeah. If the polar ice is melting, the sea level is also going to rise faster, yeah. Okay, and then so those are, but there are a lot of bad effects that we have seen, but let's not get ourselves pessimistic. There are a lot of solutions that have been available, that have been done by a lot of inspirational people. So one of the things we can do is to
to stop using fossil fuel, because the burning of fossil fuel, which needs thousands and millions of years to be made, but we burn them in only tens of years. That's why we have more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Yeah. So if we stop using fossil fuel and if we stop burning fossil fuel, if we use electric transportation, yes, Supriya?
Sorry, you're coming in and going, Ernitia.
Yeah, I don't know. Somehow it keeps changing. I already changed it, but it's still doing that. I don't know what's wrong with my
If you're
PC.
able to follow, then we will continue. Otherwise, we'll just sleep a bit if you can.
Okay. Okay.
Now you're clear, but it goes away suddenly.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Okay. Okay. So, yeah. Loudly, it just goes down. Okay, so some of the things we can do is stop burning fossil fuels. For example, we can start electric vehicles, electric cars, etc. We can also use renewable energy like solar panels and wind turbines and solar panels, for example, instead of burning oil. And we can get back to more natural ways of farming. And as we call them regenerative farming or permaculture, and there are other ways that are more natural than the current usual ones. And there's also we can also do climate action to make more people, which is very important, to make other people understand the situation more and what we can do to make it better. Yeah. So there are two kinds of solution to climate action, because we have to see climate action from the causes and the effects. Yes, so there are mitigation and adaptation efforts. Mitigation is when we do things to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, including carbon dioxide, methane, etc. And there's also adaptation, where we basically help people to adjust to the effects of climate change. So this is where we address the effects. So in mitigation, we are addressing the causes, and in climate change adaptation, we are addressing the effects of climate change. And yeah, so where does artificial intelligence go here? Yeah. Artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? It's a machine that can think, or act like humans, basically. There are different kinds of artificial intelligence or AI, but I'm just going to mention some of them here, which are often used to address climate change problems. The first one is computer vision, which is where machine can imitate how humans see. And the second one is natural language processing, which is where machines can act like how humans talk. And the next one is predictive analytics, where we can predict what happens, or we can see what's going to happen in the future. Yeah, it's not going to be 100% true, but it's going to be very quite close to that. Yeah. Is this better now, Supriya? Okay, thank you. Okay, so these are
AI for climate change solutions.
for mitigation, there are different fields that AI can be applied to, because climate change is caused by so many aspects of our lives. We cannot, if we want to address climate change, we can't just act in only one field. For example, we cannot just stop using fossil fuel but not do anything else. Yeah, for example, I mean that's the best thing to do, but we should also address it from other fields that are affecting climate change. Okay, so the first one is reforestation, and then we have renewable energy like solar panels, wind turbines, geothermal, etc. And then there's building efficiency, because building is also one of a big contributor to carbon emissions. And then there's climate action or campaign to help spread the word to other people, so more people can understand about the problem and can do more things. I mean, if all 8 billion people in the world do even one small action, that would be very impactful, yeah, than only a handful of people doing a lot of things. And then there's logistic and transportation, because transportation is also a big, like about 30% of carbon emissions contributed. And then there's adaptation. Again, if we want to help people adapt to the effects of climate change, we also have to address different fields. Yeah, the first one is farming. Farmers have been one of the worst group of people who are affected in terms of who are affected by climate change, because as we saw, there were droughts and floods in different parts of the earth, and as you can imagine, plants can be very affected by droughts and floods. So it can be very difficult for farmers to adapt to those changing climate, to make the plants survive. Yeah. And then there's forest fire. Maybe you remember last year, there was this big forest fire in California, and then there was one in Australia. And it's very sad, to see that big area, such a big area, which had a lot of animals, different kinds of animals and plants, and even the one in California, which had a lot of cover in the news, was very close to human housing, to where people lived. So it was affecting their health, and some houses were even burned. So that's very important to address. And melting ice in the North Pole can also be addressed with AI. And then there's refugees. We can use AI also to monitor refugees. It's also one of the projects. Okay, so let's dive deeper. Let's take a deep dive to.
So the first one is improving food security and crop yield. This was one of the projects I did in Senegal. If you can see the map here, yes?
Oh, okay. This is the first project is improving food security and crop yield. This was one of the projects I did in Senegal. If you see the map here, it's a map of Senegal. And in this project, we use computer vision, which, if you remember, is the machine learning field where computer is used to see like humans do. The first one is to classify crop type. Yeah, if you can see in the picture here, and the first big one, the biggest picture. This is a map of Senegal at the time. And we use satellite data and computer vision to classify. These red ones are peanuts, for example, and the other colors are I can't remember, corn or so we can see what they are. Are they rice? Is it corn? Is it wheat or something else? Yeah. So they are mostly peanuts at the time. And then we can and after we can classify the crop, we can predict crop yield. Yeah. So how much farmers can harvest, we can predict those numbers, and we can help them. If we combine that with weather forecasts, we can even help the farmers decide whether they should water or how much they should water the plants and how they should trim the plants, etc., and when they should harvest, etc. And there's also another app that we built where this was more of a small scale, so we can take pictures of individual plants, and then the app can detect which disease it has. Yeah. And then the last one is to detect forest fire. This one we also used satellite data and also computer vision to detect forest fire. So once a fire becomes too big, it becomes very difficult to take out. So with this, using artificial intelligence to detect forest fire makes it easier for organizations or the government at that area to get alerted, to be notified when there's a small forest fire. So it's a lot easier, to take out, of course, when the fire is still small. So this can help them take forest fire out while it's still early, it's still small. Okay, so next project, if you have any questions, let me know, or we can have a Q&A after this. The next one is predicting energy demand. This was one of the projects we did with a company in Africa. So machine learning, we use machine learning to create a predictive model to forecast energy demand in Africa. At that time, it was only electricity, because we were hoping that we're using that data to expand energy access from solar energy to communities in Africa, especially those who did not have access to energy yet. So there were still a lot of people who didn't have access to energy. So we were planning to provide access with clean energy or renewable energy, and that at that time it was solar energy. So as you can see, we created a dashboard which can show us the different forecasts for different time and different areas in Africa. So we can visualize data, we can detect anomaly, which is something that is different from normal, and other things that you can use. So this is from our project at Omdina. And then the next project is providing recommendations for
The sound again. Sorry.
We can't hear you, sorry.
Oh, how about now?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so the next project is providing recommendations for buildings energy efficiency. In this project, we built for building owners of who have shops and offices to tell them to let them know how they can best increase the energy efficiency of lighting in their buildings. So this is similar to when you go to online shops. They show you products that are related to your preference, to what you like. So, for example, if you've bought t-shirts before, these online shops will show you t-shirts. Yeah, in this case, depending on the type of building, where it is, the climate at that area, and other data from the government and open source data, then we can give them recommendations on how best they can increase their energy efficiency. Okay, so the next project is in this project we also use satellite data, computer vision, and plus deep learning to analyze a rooftop area. And you can see in the example here, they can detect how big an area of the rooftop is and whether we can use it for solar panels. Yeah. And so sometimes, because sometimes even if there's a big area in the rooftop, there are things that can block the sunshine from that area. So this app can also detect that blockage. Yeah. So this data will then be used to improve an energy simulation platform. Yeah. And the platform, which in this case we work with a company from Europe. Yeah, at that time. Oh. Okay. We used it the platform is used for energy simulation and to optimize the distribution of energy resources such as solar PV or photovoltaics, and so based on the data we can also calculate how many batteries we need, the power we need, and how many electric vehicles we can power with those solar energy, and whether we need heat pumps to add to that energy, to add to the missing power. And the next one, this is pretty similar, but instead of rooftop, we use satellite data and computer vision to look at. Is this okay? Okay, to look at water bodies, lakes and man-made lakes, and check whether they can be used for floating solar panels based on their depth, which we can decide from the satellite data and computer vision, and whether there are other obstacles on the peripherals. Okay, and next one is visualizing climate change impacts. Yeah, we took data from different websites which are available, and use this app we built to that was built to visualize climate change impacts, and we also used it to analyze how nature-based solutions were used for mitigations. Yeah, so nature-based solutions are solutions using nature, not using concrete, etc. So here we can see that, you see the demo, yeah, we can see the different actors in the network. We can see the changes of temperatures in different countries. We analyze keywords from the different websites with natural language processing. And yeah, and different other different parts. This was something that my friends did. And the last one is to help people make decisions on what mitigation action they can use. Yeah, so this is a web application we built with my friends at AI Wonder Goals to help companies and people decide on what climate change mitigation steps are best for them, depending on their field for companies and depending on where they are and other factors. So we have this can also be used to get more information about the effects of climate change and to tell us which ones we can do to mitigate our impacts. Yeah, on the that has a that might result in climate change. Okay, so those are the projects that I've mentioned. Next is Q&A. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Ernitia. Your PPT was wonderful and very informative. But could you tell us a little bit about when in your last slide you mentioned that you worked with AI Wonder Girls and you found some solutions to mitigate climate change. So could you tell us a little bit about AI Wonder Girls and a little bit about like some of the examples of the solutions that you have helped with?
Sure.
We cannot hear you.
We are female AI so I've been lucky to be part of AI Wonder Girls, who are AI female EA from all over the world. We have people from Asia, Europe, America, and all the Australia and all the different countries who get together, and sometimes we work on different projects. Sometimes we join hackathons, sometimes we just get together and learn together about machine learning and artificial intelligence. And the solutions, as we can see here, are from different categories. As you mentioned, in this example, the one chosen is agriculture. Yeah, so there are also other categories that you can choose. If you happen to be a farmer, maybe this is relevant to you. If you also sell food, yeah, even if you're not a farmer, because you sell food, then your impacts are most likely be in the agriculture sectors. But if you click here, this is just a screenshot, so I can't click here. But if you click here, there are also other categories like transportation and industry, manufacturing, etc. So it depends on where your field is. You can check which ones are the most impactful, yeah, and then you can go deeper and check the related paper and more detailed solutions. Yes, I hope that answers your question.
That was really cool. Also, another question is you mentioned the word farmer. So suppose somebody wasn't as experienced as a machine learning engineer or a data scientist as you were, but they were just looking out to start in this climate field and wanted to help, is there something that they could use in AI to help the farmers out?
Oh, that's why we built all. Yeah, so for example, these apps, there are more than one, yeah, but I just put this put here one app. If maybe I can show you this.
Can't hear you, Ernitia, sorry.
Yeah, so that's why we built all these apps, yeah. So there are a few apps that were built in this project, for example. This was specially for farmers. And yeah, and they can just use the app. They can go to the resources based on where they are. They can find out. They can find out the crop yield prediction, and they can find out recommendations on when to harvest and when to to do different maintenance activities for their crops.
That's very helpful. Also, when you're talking about like farmers and even those that even just sell food, is there any way that we could use AI to help with having a more sustainable green economy as a whole?
Oh, okay. As if I understand you correctly, you mean you want to participate in using AI? Is that what you like for farmers to use AI? I mean, they. I'm not sure what you mean. If they can just use that are provided, which use. So, how many? What other ways do you mean when you want to? When you said you want to use AI, farmers want to use AI.
For farmers, but for maybe businesses and suppliers and manufacturers, is there any way that they could reduce their carbon footprint or they could be more sustainable? And would there be any ways that they could do that maybe through AI?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, they can use. Oh, okay. Yeah. So if people work in the agriculture, in the agriculture field, they can use AI to help them with logistics or transportation. Yeah, they can use AI to predict how much they need to use, how much resources they need to use in their logistics. If they already know that in advance before, then they would be able to reduce idle resources, which is very good. And also, they can also use AI to find out, to increase their efficiency in operations. So yeah, if they can find out, they can get recommendations of what they should best do, then there will also be less waste resources. That answers your questions. I'm not sure if it's quite general, yeah, or if it's more specific, then of course we can be more specific in the solutions. But yeah, these are the fields that people can use by using AI to reduce their carbon emissions.
So talking about carbon emissions, for example, since carbon dioxide and methane, they're like the biggest contributors of climate change, like the biggest two greenhouse gases, is there any way that we could work with these two gases to reduce the emissions of these gases in other ways than that you've already mentioned, that you could do at more of a micro level rather than at a macro level, that even each person could start with doing?
Okay.
We cannot hear you.
Okay, sorry. Are you talking about using AI or anything in general for reducing?
Anything in general, but using AI as well.
Okay. So basically, for example, we have, as individuals, if we have a house, we can use AI to predict our energy usage in the house, and that's actually been used now already. So if we can predict our energy use, we can also use AI to plan what will be used for our energy. So in a smart system where all houses are connected with energy sources, with renewable energy sources, and then we also have batteries, then AI can be used to manage how much energy they are able to produce and how much energy they need to use, and they need to get from other sources to their neighbors, for example, from their neighbors or from the main electric grid. That's something in the future, but for now, I guess for companies are already using AI to. If you're talking about methane, it's mostly in farming, so farming companies can use AI to monitor the production of methane in their livestock, in their animal groups, so so they know how much they need to offset when they plan to do so, because I mean, if you already have a farm, you have the cows and all the other animals. The only thing you can do to reduce methane is to reduce production. I mean, we cannot change how the animals work, but reducing. So for individuals, what we can do is to reduce the amount of meat we eat, whether it's pork or chicken or anything, because they do emit, raising them emit a lot of methanes, and methane is a lot more powerful than carbon dioxide, even though they are a lot less than carbon dioxide in volume, in their number, but they are a lot more powerful in increasing the temperatures. So it's also important to reduce their level, methane. So reduce, eat less meat. Maybe there's this movement called Meatless Monday, where people don't eat meat on Monday, which is good. I mean, if you can reduce it to more than one day and without meat, that would be even better. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. That was very informative. Also, does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Ernitia?
Go ahead, Ridhima.
Thank you, Ms. Ernitia. So I just wanted to ask, some of our kids in our classes, they work a lot with image projects. So the project you showed us about the crops, where we could see the colors on different crops, I think that would be quite interesting for them to understand. How did you really train your AI? So what kind of examples or data would you have given your AI to learn from so that it could detect the patterns in those crops?
We use Sentinel images from Sentinel hubs. If you know, you can go to their website. Yeah, I can give you I can give some links to Supriya after this, if that would be useful. Yeah, we work in this specific area, but of course it's applicable in other countries too. So
essentially the images were satellite images of the crop fields in the area.
yes, you're right. And we got it from Sentinel Hub, the website. There are different layers that you can choose. I won't go into that because it's too technical, but yeah, you can learn about that in the website.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question. Any other questions? Anyone?
I had one last question.
Okay.
So for AI and climate change, suppose there's something that's very unprecedented that comes along, like COVID, for example. Is there any way that we could use AI to not interfere with maybe climate change, and we could prevent any further disaster from happening when we see something like COVID come into play, which has completely changed the patterns of everyone, which has also definitely led to changes in temperatures, changes in how people behave, and how all the patterns are changing. People are going out less, but energy consumption has increased. So is there any way that we could use AI to predict something that could still help in keeping the climate more sustainable and making people more sustainable?
I think it's something doable because machine learning is very good at looking at patterns which humans cannot see with our own eyes. If we see streams of data in front of us, we cannot. Most of the times, we cannot tell the patterns as good as computers. Yeah, I mean, but it depends on the data. Everything in machine learning and artificial intelligence, it all comes down to data. If we have good enough data, and I believe in that kind of project analysis, it would need huge amounts of data of different kinds. For example, if you search, you will you will find out that Google can actually predict when flu breakout is going to happen based on what people search. Yeah, if so many people are searching for symptoms, flu symptoms, etc., they can predict, oh, then there's going to be a flu breakout in this area, for example, in this city. And in the same sense, we can also use AI in a global sense to predict something as big as the COVID pandemic. But yeah, as I mentioned, it will need a huge amount of data, and it will need a big model, also a model that uses a lot of resources to do that. I hope that explains.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Ernitia, for telling us about and teaching us a lot actually today about the ways sharing and also sharing your work on mitigating and adapting climate change. And some of your solutions were really interesting, like the crop yield one. It was very impressive, and just everything you taught us in general in terms of the causes, how we could reduce it on global levels, how we could do it on a small level, on the intricacies of what you did, like for example with your rooftop, how you could manage the energy through the rooftop. These solutions were really cool and they were really informative. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your work.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry about the technical problem. Hopefully it was okay.
It was good, no problem.
Yeah, even I learned something new today about going meatless can help in climate change. I didn't realize that link. So thanks a lot. So,
Yes, thank you.
kids, so this is a wrap up for today. And if we can all say our thank yous to Miss Ernitia for being here on a Sunday afternoon with us. So that'd be great.
Oh, before we stop, can you tell me what if you are going to do something to reduce the effects of climate change? Are you going to do something? Are you going to do anything?
Yes, for sure.
I mean, can you tell me what you're planning to do, or if you have a project, like just tell me something very short, like an overview, if that's okay. I'm curious about what you're.
So the first thing I'm definitely going to do is I'm going to start with the Meatless Monday program. And another thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to find ways that we could be more sustainable just in our communities and in our school. So for example, with transport, maybe we could set up an app that would connect people together. So if people were going to the same location, maybe they could carpool, because that would reduce a lot of the emissions. Another thing that we could do is maybe we could hold some strikes in India, because even though there are many strikes that go around in the world, there's not much that actually happens in Mumbai and India itself for climate. So through those strikes, maybe we could raise awareness. Another thing is that in my school, at least, there's a lot of unused property, and there's a lot of property that is left back, like in terms of stationery or literally anything, any clothes, uniforms, stationery, bottles, backpacks that people leave in school and often don't even go and pick it up. So maybe using AI, we could connect schools at least in Mumbai together in India. And we could maybe have a database so where they could come and they could choose what they wanted. And so it could be recycled instead of it just going into the landfill. Those are the few ideas that I had.
Wow, those are very amazing ideas. Thank you so much for sharing. You have a very creative participants here, yeah? Thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much for having me.
Enjoyed it.
But Ernitia, I want to throw this question open to the other young kids also, in case anybody has anything to share. That is lovely. You actually got us thinking.
Yes, please. If you have any thoughts.
Suhan, Aisha, Kavya, Sad, Fioni, you all have any ideas what you would do after today's talk to reduce your carbon footprint? Something small, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter. Sorry, it does matter. Every small step matters.
Maybe to reduce the climate change and everything, maybe I could make a poster on saving the earth, so that no negative impact would happen to the earth.
Okay, that would get people to think, yeah? It would remind people of that they can do other stuff too. Thank you. I see Fioni. Is it okay if I ask Fioni to talk?
Yes.
So I would tell all my relatives to stop air conditioners, a lot of usage of air conditioners, and I'll tell them to pass this message to whoever they know.
That's very good, Fioni. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
I think Vihan.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Vihan.
So in my school, there are a lot of buses. So like in one area which I live, there are at least 3 buses picking up children. So I think we should reduce that much of buses instead of 3 to 1. So like to spread awareness for using less of vehicles. That's all.
That's very good. That's a very good idea, Fian. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Neil? Clarissa?
A dedicated bike path to school, major parts of Mumbai.
That's a good idea. Who are you going to talk to? Maybe you should talk to people at school, yeah, first at least.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
That was lovely. I'm so glad you asked that question, Ernitia, because we always forget to get a call to action after learning.
Yeah, it was great to hear all the brilliant ideas from the students here.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And Ernitia, if you don't mind, can I have you and Naya, stay back for 2 seconds after we end this call? We just want to take a picture of the two of you, if that's okay.
Of course.
You are welcome to whoever would like to stay for the picture. But since this was our first student AI ambassador, I wanted a picture of the two of you for sure.
I think, unfortunately, Naya has logged out. I think she probably had to go somewhere. I don't see her on the call anymore.
I think she got logged out. I don't think her laptop died. She says she's coming back in a second. In the meantime, whoever's happy to take a screenshot, you can show your faces. Otherwise, we won't trouble you. Rehan showed his face. Thank you.
Anybody who's willing to smile, please turn on your video and smile.
It's okay. Please turn on the camera if
Aisha, can you please show your face? Aisha's my daughter, so I can ask her to do that.
Thank you. I can see you now.
Okay, so I'm going to click in 3, 2, and 1. Thank you.